I'm just going to give you the last part of the creepy dream. So,
All right.
um, so Damon and I, we were decorating for Christmas, and then we walked down a hallway in our house. There's a door. We open the door, and there's a priest there. Behind him is a display case that looks like an old storefront from like Gunsmoke or Bonanza, an old Western storefront. In the display case is a life-size mannequin or life-size doll, and her face is made out of porcelain, and her eyes are super black. The priest has a really round face, also. Not a lot of hair, ruddy complexion. Um, I can feel this doll staring at me. There's a presence in her. And I look at her and I say, "Stop staring at me." um, she raises her left hand and points at me. And the priest kind of real nervously laughs and says, "Oh, Margaret." And then I look at her again and I say, "No." And at this point, I notice that the doorknob's shaking on the door. And I tell my husband that we need to leave now. And he's talking and won't listen to me. So I finally get his attention. We step back out of the door. I try to push it shut, and whatever's on the other side is trying to push it back open. Finally get it shut and locked. And then I wake up. And as I'm waking up, I hear 7 days equals 7 years. And I think, no, it's more like 7 weeks.
I hear go Fives.
Yes, go Pokes.
Her daughter plays softball, and her number is 55, so we say go Fives.
Go Fives.
7 days equals 7 years, but it's more like 7 weeks.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Well, so you're decorating for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
You go down this hall. There's this priest with this display case, this life-size kind of doll with a porcelain face, kind of a round face, hairless priest sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at you, and you see that the doll is moving and looking at you, and you keep telling it to leave you alone. Or what do you say to the doll?
The first time I tell her to stop staring at me. And then she raises her hand and points at me, and I tell her no, like really loud and commandingly, I guess is what my note said.
Is it her left hand?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have something, Neil?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So the display case is the idea of it's being put on display. I believe the doll represents a demonic force. And believe it or not, there are demonic forces that can certainly habit things that aren't necessarily human. So if you didn't know that, the whole idea of dolls moving and all of that stuff, yeah, go look it up. Don't take my word for it. But
yeah, Chelsea's made me watch those movies.
The reason why these are, and I've had other people, I've had 4-year-old kids dream about the dolls that they've seen literally moving in real life in their rooms that they've had to throw out and burn. And, so it represents some sort of demonic inhabitant. And the thing it's behind a glass display case, right? So it's being put on display for you to see, but it's literally what's behind the priest. So it's what is behind. A priest represents, particularly like a Catholic priest.
Mm-hmm.
So it represents, I believe in this case, it represents the spirit of religion. So behind the spirit of religion can be a demonic force that seems to have a pure porcelain face, but is really kind of twisted and is there to harass and annoy you. But it's being put on display so you can see it. And I believe part of what this is God is dealing with what's happening in the church. You're getting ready for Christmas, which is the idea of celebrating the birth of Christ. But God is revealing some of the things related to the legalistic and religious spirit that are forces behind it that are not things aren't what they seem. There's even a whole lot about the stuff that we celebrate at Christmas that has no roots in Christianity at all. In fact, it has worshipped pagan gods and other holidays and things like that. If that comes as a surprise to anybody that's listening, there's tons of research that you can do to look it up. I'm certainly not saying don't celebrate Christmas. I'm saying understand what you're celebrating and why. But Christmas, the holy days, as they are called, Advent and all of that, particularly Advent, right, leading up to Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right.
Lent is the spring. Okay, so the idea. It's been a long time since I've been Catholic, so
Me too.
It's the idea of a holy season and a holy time, and you're creating the preparation to be able to celebrate, arguably, the birth of Jesus. So you go into this place. And here's this spirit of religion, but behind the spirit of religion is this creepy thing that wants to kind of wave at you and all of that stuff, and you rebuke it. And what happens after that?
The doorknob starts shaking, and I
Sorry.
realized we need to get out of there. So we step back, and whatever's on the other side, the demonic presence is trying to push the door back open, and I'm trying to shove it shut. And then I finally get shut and locked.
So God is putting on display and letting something annoy you that is standing behind a spirit of religion. And he's also showing you something that may have some bit of access or is trying to gain access into your location. What you need to do is shut the door and lock it. It's a spiritual warfare warning dream. What I would do is look in the places that you wouldn't think. Don't just be like, well, obviously, is there a spirit of addiction or this or that or any bad stuff? That's where people go. Is there witchcraft? It may not be that obvious. It's hiding behind a spirit of religion. So is there a spirit of accusation? Is there a spirit of gossip, of judgment? Is there anything at all that would have a porcelain face and seem to be like, oh, look at the beautiful doll? And it's really there to kind of annoy you. It's not going to kill you or take you out or anything. But it's also rattling at the door and trying to get in. And if so, shut those doors and lock those doors. Allow it no access. Give it no quarter. Allow it no presence in your domain at all. And again, please understand, a spiritual warfare dream doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. It doesn't mean you've allowed anything into your space. It means God is putting on display the spirit behind the typical religious system. This could have to do with church, because a priest is in it. It could have to do with somebody that that represents a level of spiritual authority. But the jingling door and there's a fight to try to enter. It's trying to gain access. If it gains access, especially if you open the door and let it in, it's a whole different ballgame. But God is letting you know, secure the borders, secure the barriers.
Okay.
Yeah, another thing,
by the way.
What's that?
Do what?
I said, does that resonate with you? Do you know what it is that a lot of times when I say stuff like this, people will know right away, oh, I think I know what that is, because God will just click it. And not that we need to know, but if not, it may be something like the thing behind the door was hidden. So the thing behind the display case was on display. So I feel like there's two things, could be three things you're dealing with. The spirit of religion could be the priest. What's behind the spirit of religion could almost be like a Jezebel type of thing. Right. And then there's something at the door that's hidden that you don't have any idea what it is, but it's trying to gain access.
The unholy trinity. The fact that the doll was pointing its left finger at you, it's the accusing finger. And, the left hand is supposedly the hand of the devil. I'm left-handed, so I kind of take that as a compliment, I guess. I don't know. Is there anything that you can think of in your house? I mean, because this could be an actual physical object. The doll is in your house already in the dream. So it could be, it's possible, maybe not, but it's possible that there's an object in your house that is like a porcelain doll, but it's not a porcelain doll. Is there anything you can think of in your house that you always thought was kind of like, it's always kind of odd? Maybe it was a gift from somebody or something that you purchased when you were, years ago. That's just in the house, maybe hanging on a wall or in one of the back rooms or even in, storage cabinet somewhere. Is anything like that come to mind?
Not right off the top of my head. I mean, I went through 3 or 4 months ago and anointed the whole house. Actually went through the whole property because we just had some kind of weird things going on. So maybe I need to look in the attic.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. It was down a hallway and in kind of a room. It sounded like when you were telling me, it sounded like it was a room that was not used very often. It was just in the back of the house, kind of not forgotten in a place that you don't go normally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would look in those places.
Okay.
It may not be anything. It might be what John is talking about, that it's actually a spiritual, it is a spiritual piece, but I'm
Right.
thinking that it's an actual physical object that something's attached to in your house.
Well, it could be like if somebody gave you like a cross or a statue of Mary or anything related to Catholicism or what would seem like a spiritual memento or artifact. It could be something.
Something like a dream catcher or something like that.
Or like whatever it is you just thought of.
Yeah, exactly. That thing.
It was my grandma's pearl rosary.
Margaret means pearl.
My mom gave that to me.
Wow.
Wow.
That's interesting.
That is interesting.
Where do you keep it?
It's actually in my jewelry box that I don't get into very often because I live on a farm. So
It's like a room.
It's like a room. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Huh.
Bree heard rosary. She actually heard that.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
That's interesting.
That is interesting.
There you go.
Very cool. Huh. So what about this 7 days equals 7 years? But no, not. It's more like 7 weeks.
It's kind of Joseph-esque.
Mm-hmm.
7 bulls equals 7 years.
And then the 3 days. Seven days is obviously the number of completion for a week.
Right.
52 weeks in a year, 5 plus 2 is 7, which that thought never came to me before, but I think that's interesting. So I do feel like there's something, I feel like there's a time frame of something that you're dealing with or you're asking God about, and you're wondering if it's days or years, and he's saying weeks. And it might be the number 7 specifically, but 7 also represents the number of, it's God's number of God's perfection. So
completion.
Yeah. But if you get that, let me know. If you find out what it is.
I will. Just a really quick thing that just popped in my head though was, so Down syndrome is 3 copies of the 21st chromosome, which 3 times 7 is 21.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Natalie thinks you should play the Powerball. She said 777 jackpot.
Yeah.
So, but awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. What a cool dream.
Thanks, you. Joe. Yeah, it was terrifying.
Yeah, that's
it took
awesome.
me like 3 hours to get back to sleep because I kept telling myself, it's from God. It's from God.
That's right.